Thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And thank you for tuning into this fifth segment. And we are going to go right ahead into the fifth segment where I talk about some Lakers trade targets, like some trade targets that I feel like they should try and acquire. So I'm just going to pull up the list real quick. Just 1 second. Let me just pull up this list right now. And there we go. All right. So the Lakers in the offseason, terrible. They're awful. They have not done a single thing. They're one of the very few teams that have not done anything to their roster, have not signed any players, have not added free agents, have not traded anybody. They've done absolutely nothing. And they did nothing in last season as well. They did nothing in the excuse me. They just do nothing. And I don't understand. How do you just do nothing when you have a prime LeBron on your team? It doesn't make sense to me. But aside from that, the article is going on to saying the Lakers are hiring Zach Guthrie as a head coach of the NBA G League affiliate in South Bay. So yeah, that's one thing. And Guthrie has been an assistant of the Wizards since 2021. He spent the season with Dallas, 4 seasons, yada, yada, yada. And the Lakers are going to... Where on earth are the reports? Oh, well. Aside from that, I mean, the Lakers, they've been trying to... I don't know what they're trying to do. If I'm going to be real with you, I have no idea what these Lakers are trying to do in this offseason. Like, who would they trade for? Like, what would be the trade targets for the Los Angeles Lakers? I don't know if there's anybody available on the table for them. Not only that, but I also feel like LeBron's, huge contract is kind of hurting the Lakers a little bit more than it's helping. So Zach LaVine, Trae Young, Jeremy Grant, and Brandon Ingram are among the rival players who could be linked to the Lakers in trade rumors this season, at least according to Eric Pincus of Bleacher Report. Now, first of all, Zach LaVine, they've been saying they're going to get Zach LaVine for years, and that hasn't happened. Jeremy Grant, they said they were going to acquire Jeremy Grant in the offseason. That hasn't happened. Brandon Ingram, I don't even know where Brandon Ingram is going to head, but I doubt it's going to be back to the Lakers. Because, let's face it, Brandon Ingram was a Laker, and that didn't work out. You really think he's going to want to go back to the Lakers again? That's not happening. He was in the trade package for Anthony Davis, and naturally being in the trade package for Anthony Davis, I don't think if I was in that trade package, I wouldn't want to go back to the team that traded me and ended up winning a title without me. Like, you don't need me. Why do you want me back? Go away. But the other players that I mentioned, I mean, like I said, Zach LaVine, he's been in the Lakers trade rumor for the longest time. So I don't believe that in the slightest. I don't believe that that's happening at all. So just completely discredit Zach LaVine. And could it happen? Sure. But it's been said that it's going to happen over and over and over and over again. And it hasn't happened yet. So I'm just like, forget it. Like, no, that's never happening. Trae Young, on the other hand, I'm not entirely sure how that would work. I'm not entirely sure how that lineup would fit. I would much rather have someone who can play defense at the guard. But I also do understand why you'd want somebody like Trae Young to run the guard, because that way it eases the pressure from LeBron, and that way LeBron doesn't have to constantly have the ball in his hands 24/7. And on top of that, Trae Young would be able to teach LeBron's son a couple of things of being able how to run the guard. Just throwing it out there. Aside from that, the Jeremy Grant, I feel like Jeremy Grant is probably in terms of having a dominant prime LeBron, Jeremy Grant would be the best fit for the team, because that way you can put LeBron at the point guard, and then you can put Jeremy Grant at the 4 and Anthony Davis at the 5. I know Anthony Davis is going to complain about being the 5, but tough. And really, I feel like that lineup, it would mesh very, very well. But I wouldn't mind seeing Trae Young on that either. But let me know in the comments how plausible you think that is. I think all of it is honestly impossible because there's just no way they're going to be able to afford any of those players. I don't feel like it. And there's no way that any of those players would even want to play for LA because LeBron. And that's just bad luck. So, nothing that the Lakers are pushed up against the second tax apron. Pincus believes that a trade would be their only path toward improving the roster. He takes a look at a dozen potential trade targets. And those are all the trade targets that they have. Let me know in the comments what you guys think would be the most suitable trade target of those 4 players that I just recently mentioned. Zach LaVine, Trae Young, Jeremy Grant, or Brandon Ingram. Personally, it's between Jeremy Grant and Trae Young. If I had to pick one, I'd probably say let's think. There was one. I don't know. That's tough because, for one, Jeremy Grant is a great fit, but I don't know how well he's going to play in the postseason. Trae Young, maybe not a competent defender, and maybe not the best, maybe not a fit for a dominant ball handling LeBron, but LeBron doesn't have to be on the ball. So maybe they change the offense so that he's a little bit more off the ball. And also on top of that, I have more faith in Trae Young's postseason performances than I do with Jeremy Grant in the postseason. I do know, yeah, and yes, I know Trae Young, he did not play very well against the Miami Heat in the last postseason that the Hawks were in, and I do know that. But aside from those performances, and I do know that they also lost to the Celtics, but aside from that, it's not like Trae Young was horrible in those postseason games. Yeah, sure, he might have some bad games here and there, but it's not like every single time he's going to have a bad game. And, we're human. I always expect humans to have bad games here and there. I am not a psychopath. I am not insane like that. And I'm not someone who thinks that a player needs to be perfect all the time. In fact, to bring it up, in the 2023 postseason, explaining why I sort of trust Trae Young in the postseason, he was a phenomenal player. He was great in the postseason. So I'm just going to read you his averages against the Boston Celtics. He averaged 29 points, 10 assists, didn't really shoot that well, wasn't that efficient, sure, 40% from the field and 33% from 3, but that is what you sort of expect from a Boston Celtics defense. But being able to average 29 and get an average 10 plus assists along with that in the postseason, that's awesome, I think. I mean, let me know in the comments if you guys think that's awesome, because I think that's great. And also in Game 5 when where the Atlanta Hawks ended up winning, Trae Young dropped 38 and 13. In the game before that, in Game 4, Trae Young dropped 35 and 15. And then in the elimination game, Trae Young dropped 30 and 10. Now, obviously, not obviously, but in the elimination game, he did shoot 9 for 28, which isn't really all that, fantastic. But still, 30 and 10 is fantastic numbers. So I think I would rather have Trae Young because of, I know what I'm going to get out of him in the postseason, as opposed to Jeremy Grant, where I have no idea what I'm going to get out of him in the postseason. So that's my opinion. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. And that is all that I have today on this segment and this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. That is gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show, makes it much more interactive between myself and you guys. And that is all that I have for you today on this segment. Thank you, and this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna